The Western house help usually comes with a given and clearly laid down structure depending on the type of help needed. Here, duties are defined. Working hours are stated. Boundaries are drawn. Expectations are written and signed. But do African house helps have these guides? Do they truly understand what is expected of them, and do the families who employ them understand the emotional and psychological weight that comes with bringing a stranger into their home? Please, spare me a little of your time while I try to unravel the hard realities that come with the African house help or nannies. I will be using Nigeria as a case study, not because Nigeria is the worst place for African house help, but because it mirrors a pattern that exists across many African societies. In Nigeria, getting a house help is one of the most delicate decisions a young, progressive family can ever make. It is not just a domestic decision, it is an emotional, psychological, and sometimes spiritual decision. This single choice can either stabilize a home or silently plant the seed of chaos that later destroys it. Many families underestimate the weight of this decision. They see it as a solution to a busy lifestyle, not realizing it can become a complex human situation with deep consequences. Most modern Nigerian families are heavily engaged with work. Both parents leave the house early and return late. This is because bills must be paid. Careers must be sustained. Children must be raised. Somewhere in the middle of this pressure, the idea of getting a house help begins to look like salvation. It feels like a practical answer to exhaustion. And so, the search begins. In Nigeria, house helps usually come in different forms, but the most common and socially accepted form is the teenage house help. Often, this is a young girl between the ages of 12 and 17. Sometimes she is a distant relative. Sometimes she is the daughter of a family friend. Sometimes she comes from a rural village where opportunities are scarce, and education is uncertain. The arrangement, on the surface, looks like a win-win situation. The parents of the teenager believe they are helping the teenager by taking her into the city, feeding her, clothing her, and paying her school fees. In return, she helps with household chores and assists in caring for the baby. At the beginning, everything feels peaceful. The parents of the baby feel proud of themselves. They believe they are doing charity. They believe they are shaping a young life. The teenage house help appears quiet, obedient, and grateful. Neighbors praise the family. Relatives applaud their kindness. Everyone feels good. But what is rarely discussed is what happens beneath the surface. This teenage girl did not come with a job description. No one sat her down to explain her rights, her limits, or her emotional needs. No one told her when work ends and rest begins. No one asked her if she was ready for the emotional responsibility of raising another person's child. She is expected to wake up early, clean the house, cook, wash clothes, fetch water, attend to visitors, and still be emotionally present for a baby who demands constant attention. As days turn into months, months turn into years, something begins to shift. The teenage house help begins to feel trapped. She sees her mates outside laughing, playing, discovering themselves, while her life is confined to walls, routines, and silent obedience. She begins to feel like she is living someone else's life. Her freedom slowly disappears, but she does not have the vocabulary or the courage to express it. The parents of the baby, on the other hand, feel justified. In their minds, they are paying school fees. They are providing shelter. They are feeding her. They believe gratitude should cancel out exhaustion. They believe their generosity excuses emotional neglect. And so, both parties are living in the same house but on completely different emotional pages. Frustration begins to grow quietly inside the teenager. She cannot express herself, she cannot talk back. She cannot complain. She cannot leave. Her anger has nowhere to go. And then comes the most dangerous part of this arrangement, the moments when she is alone with the baby. This turns out to be the only time she can express her pain. This is where many untold tragedies begin. The baby is innocent. The baby has done nothing wrong. But the baby becomes the only outlet for suppressed emotions. The crying becomes unbearable. Sometimes she spanks the baby out of nowhere. This could be an uncontrolled anger, or repayment of her parents' treatment on her. The exhaustion becomes overwhelming. The frustration spill over. Sometimes it comes out as negligence. Sometimes as harsh handling. Sometimes as emotional detachment. And in the worst cases, it turns into abuse that no one sees until it is too late. Nigeria has recorded countless heartbreaking stories of children harmed by teenage house helps, not always out of wickedness, but out of emotional overload and unresolved frustration. These are sins the child had no part in creating, yet they suffer the consequences. The teenage house help system is one of the riskiest arrangements in this part of the world. Not because teenagers are bad, but because they are emotionally unprepared for the responsibility placed on them. They are still discovering who they are, yet they are forced to take care of someone else's future. Both parties believe they are helping each other, but most times, they are not speaking the same emotional language. Then there is another form of house help commonly practiced in Nigeria, the adult house help. This is where families agree to bring in a grown adult, sometimes from the husband's family, sometimes from the wife's side, to assist with household duties due to their tight work schedule. On paper, this seems more reasonable. An adult is assumed to be more mature, more responsible, more emotionally stable. But this path carries its own dangers. Unlike teenagers, adults come with fully formed personalities, desires, insecurities, and expectations. They understand freedom. They understand relationships. They understand power dynamics. And they understand influence. An adult house help often spends long hours in the home. They see the cracks in the marriage. They notice emotional gaps. They observe moments of weakness. They hear conversations they were never meant to hear. They witness arguments, cold silences, unresolved tension between spouses. In some cases, jealousy begins to grow, especially when the adult house help compares her life to that of the woman of the house. In other cases, attraction develops. Emotional closeness turns into familiarity. Familiarity turns into inappropriate connection. And sometimes, what started as help ends as betrayal. Many Nigerian marriages have collapsed because of this dynamic. Some husbands fall into temptation. Some wives become suspicious and insecure. Trust erodes. Arguments escalate. Homes become battlefields. Children become silent witnesses to adult mistakes. And yet, in most of these cases, there were no rules. No agreements. No boundaries. No clearly defined roles. Everything was assumed. Everything was informal. Everything relied on trust alone. Now, let us pause and look at the Western house help system. In most Western societies, hiring a house help or nanny is a formal process. The type of help needed is defined. Hours are stated. Duties are listed. Salaries are agreed upon. Days off are specified. Privacy boundaries are respected. Contracts are signed. Expectations are clear from day one. A Western nanny understands that this is a job, not a favor. The family understands that the nanny is a professional, not a relative. Emotional boundaries are established. Personal lives are respected. There is structure. But even this system is not without flaws. Western homes have also recorded stories of jealousy, inappropriate relationships, emotional attachment, and tragic consequences. Proximity can blur lines anywhere in the world. Human emotions do not recognize geography. Attraction does not obey contracts. Trust can be broken in any culture. The difference lies in accountability. When something goes wrong in the Western system, there are legal frameworks, professional consequences, and social structures to address it. On the other side of the world, in many African homes, silence becomes the solution. Issues are buried. Pain is ignored. Lessons are rarely learned. The African house help system is a very delicate line to walk on. It sits at the intersection of culture, poverty, kindness, ignorance, and emotional neglect. Many families mean well, but good intentions do not cancel poor structure. Love alone does not replace boundaries. Charity without clarity becomes exploitation, even when it is unintentional. Parents must understand that bringing someone into their home is not just about help, it is about trust, influence, access, and emotional exposure. Children absorb energy. Homes absorb tension. House helps, whether teenage or adult, are not invisible. They feel. They observe. They react. Families from both Africa and the West have been left in sorrow because of poorly thought out house help arrangements. Some have lost their children. Some have lost their marriages. Some have lost their peace. Some have lost their trust forever. This is not a call to reject house helps or nannies entirely. It is a call for awareness. A call for structure. A call for honesty. A call for empathy. If a family must get a house help, they must ask hard questions. Is this person emotionally prepared? Are expectations clear? Are boundaries defined? Is there supervision? Is there respect on both sides? Is rest guaranteed? Is dignity preserved? Because at the end of the day, the African house help system did not fail because people are wicked. It fails because it is undefined. It fails because silence replaces communication. It fails because culture sometimes hides problems instead of solving them. And until these realities are openly acknowledged, families will continue to walk this delicate path blindly, hoping for the best while risking the worst. So, whether you are in Africa or the West, remember this: a house help is not just an extra pair of hands. They are a human being with emotions, limits, and influence. Handle that reality with care, because the cost of ignoring it is often far greater than we imagine.